we're back with Matt. That almost rhymes. You excited by
Back
that?
with Matt, yeah.
That's okay.
I like poetry, so that's fine.
Don't give up my day job. Okay.
Not yet.
All right, Matt Fleming is with us from...
No, Fanning. Remember Hot Day, you know?
Oh, my goodness.
Mick Fanning,
I don't
Sharks.
know why. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Maybe I've been interviewing too many people and talking for too long. So, Matt Fanning, no relationship to Mick Fanning.
No.
Or Ellen Fanning.
No.
There you go.
She's, no.
She's my old flatmate.
Really?
Can you believe it? Yeah, I went to uni
Well, I
with her.
can, yeah, because she's an ABC reporter, isn't she?
Oh, yes, but back then we weren't. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
She probably doesn't even remember me. Anywho, Matt's from we used to call it the Bolo.
Yeah. And
But it's the Bolo, and if you still call it Bolo, it shows how long you've been around. What do we call these days?
Well, it's called Club Sapphire, so it's obviously bowling is its heritage, but it's much more than that these days. So, but yeah, look, a lot of people still know it as the bolo, colloquially and friendly. But it's a lot of bowling goes on. But in fact, the bowling club here now is fantastic. I mean, it's a world-class facility with the covered greens.
Don't you have you had some you have major titles? National titles.
Yeah, the Australian Championships the last I think 3 years from memory.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic, you know.
And bowlers these days, they're not all retired and going grey, are they?
There's a bit of that still, but no, there's a lot of some younger people, and a lot of more casual, barefoot bowls, fun type bowls, which is happening this morning actually as well.
Yeah.
So it's still very much part of the heritage and the fabric of the club.
Absolutely. But it's a much bigger operation now.
Yeah. I was reflecting on it recently in terms of one of the things that the club has tried to do over the years, and successfully, is to reduce its reliance on the pokies and to diversify its operations to basically generate income from other areas, which it's doing successfully with things like the new bar that they've just opened, Kitty, which is...
we keep talking about that. We're all going there after today.
It's actually named after the original president of the bowling club, a lady called Kitty.
Okay.
But then you've also got the new residential development down the road where they're building and selling 40 units off the plan. You've got the Seaside Gym downstairs, which is a 24/7 sort of health club. You have great entertainment here. Like if you talk about where to go to get entertained, this club is very much right at the pinnacle. You've got Paul Kelly coming in a couple of months, and people like that.
We all tried
brilliant.
to get tickets for that.
Yeah, me too, and even I couldn't. So,
so we get a lot of big names that come through on their touring around regional Australia.
Yeah, impressive. So, and then you've still got various other activities here, like it was the Bushfire Relief Centre during the bushfires, and there's a church that runs up here, Sapphire Life Church. So there's lots happening within the club that isn't necessarily attached to traditional sort of gambling and food and beverage.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And Matt, you won't know this about me, but multifaceted and talented as I am, before I moved down here, I was on the senior executive of Clubs New South Wales, which is the industry and Clubs Australia, which is the industry body for not-for-profit clubs. And I just raise that to give people an idea of the changes that you can make. So I went from being a senior executive in Clubs New South Wales to owning and building a real estate group in Merimbula. We were talking to our federal member, Christy McBain, about the university. I've also tutored at the University of Wollongong and started up another couple of businesses in that 22 years I've been in the Valley. And so it just shows you that if you come from a city and you have skills that can be adapted, there is lots of opportunity to go, well, gee whiz, I've got great strategy ideas. I'm a manager. If you look at your skill set, and this is with the concept of the Great Resignation, where everybody is resigning because of COVID, is what's your skill set, and how can you apply that to a different industry, and take the leap, because you'll come at the end of the day, you'll feel much better for it. Matt, you're in with the HR side of the human resources side of the club. Clubs also tend to be some of the biggest employers in town. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, certainly Club Sapphire has around 100 staff, permanent, part-time, permanent, casual. So that's a reasonable size. Well, it is one of the larger employers in town. You've then got obviously some other clubs as well, and you've also got council, health department, obviously Bega Cheese, who are a big employer. This is their home ground, of course. So we are one of the larger employers in town and offer a fair variety of opportunity.
Yeah. What's your biggest challenge at the moment? Are you struggling like everybody else?
Yeah, we are. It's for whatever reason just attracting people who are generally keen to carve out a career in hospitality. Has been a challenge with COVID because a lot of I shouldn't say a lot, but certainly there's been a lot of hospitality venues have shut down. So cooks and chefs and other staff have not been able to go to work, so they've maybe explored other opportunities for careers. There are some aspects of hospitality work that aren't particularly appealing to some, depending on their stage of life. You've got split shifts, you've got evenings, you've got weekends, so you've got to acknowledge that doesn't suit everyone.
Yep.
So during COVID, there's been a bit of a transition for some of those people to leave the industry and potentially not come back.
And of course, that's not unusual for anywhere in Australia at the moment. But if you were going to talk to the people who are watching today who may be looking at how they might fund their life down here, what sort of opportunities in the clubs and other, as you say, it's not just hospitality either, so what advice would you give to them?
Well, there are plenty of opportunities, and obviously COVID has opened up the remote working options as well for a lot of professional and semi-professional people. When I came here 25 years ago, that really was very uncommon, except maybe in fields like IT, for example. But now it's much more accessible and much more acceptable to employers to actually do remote work. So that's certainly opened up semi-professional and professional opportunities. You've also got just a huge, in terms of trade work and those sorts of things, just every trade is so busy around here. So, tradespeople who might be looking to come from out of the region, well, they're just going to be bombed with potential work. There's certainly plenty of work within our club itself. We would have opportunities for people from supervisors down to cleaners, and then sort of sophisticated cocktail makers. We call them mixologists.
Oh, mixologists.
In kitties. So we've just actually employed a couple who've come down from the snow at the end of the season. You've got some different roles there as well.
Actually, and that's an interesting thing to talk about, is the real synergy there is. And I know we've talked it a bit, probably people aren't watching us talk for hours and hours at a time, so the people who may not have heard us say before, there is this synergy between Merimbula and the Bega Valley and the Snowy Mountains. We're 2 hours door to door. It's astonishing the number of people from the coast that go up to the snow for winter, and then after the snow come back. So there is a real swap. There's a lot of people down here who basically travel up to the snow every weekend as well to spend time on the mountains. So for anybody looking, and this might be particularly for people like Canberra, because there's a lot of snow sport lovers in Canberra, but also Melbourne and Sydney, that what you find is that you don't have, I think you were talking about there's flexibility here, that you actually can come to here in the summer and work in a way in an industry that you're part of. But if you get itchy feet, if you're that sort of person, you can then move up to the snow in winter and vice versa. So that happens quite a lot as well.
One of the other things that I thought of there, Joe, too, was one of the challenges of coming from a metropolitan region is obviously salaries and wages. They're not as attractive in this part of the world, mostly. But there are other benefits that can significantly offset that. one of the things I actually thought of was free parking, which seems stupid to us.
Yes,
But in
yes.
places like Sydney and Melbourne, you can spend thousands of dollars a year on your parking costs, not to mention the travel time. So, it's...
I think that's a really valid point. My company, Fisk & Nagel, has also been a very large employer over the last 20 years. At one point, we probably had 60, 70 staff as well, because we had eight agencies. And people, one of the challenges for people who may move, who may be on big bucks doing what they're doing for an employer in the city, and if you can't continue doing that from a remote working point of view, there is a difference in salary, and that is a bit of a reality check that kind of whacks people in the face a little bit, I found. My answer to always to that has been, are you moving here to make money? Are you moving here for the money, or what's the intrinsic reason that you're looking to move here? And it's actually not. You're not moving here for the money, you're moving here for the lifestyle.
Well, that's right.
And less and less, or more and more and more, that's becoming not as significant because people can now work remotely in the jobs they've always done. However, for people who don't have that and still want to actually have got that feeling of their soul being destroyed in the city, the reason a lot of people want to move is to get away from that. Will your wage packet take a hit? Probably. And that's something that you're going to need to reconcile
weigh that up, that's right.
in your mind in terms of the benefits you get. The cost of living here in some senses is lower as well. You know what? I think Chris Nichols from the Tourism Visitor Centre was saying that there's everything here. We do have lots of shops here. We've got majors, you know, like the retail chains like Target and in Merimbula and Bega, Target, Best and Less. We you know, an Aldi. We have an Aldi now.
Yes, we do.
We also have boutique shops, but what we don't have is hundreds of shops that you just walk and browse and spend your money on. Everybody can shop online as well, but I think the cost of living in the city, from my experience, you're just constantly putting money out of your pocket to throw out the door, whereas down here you may earn less, but you actually find there's a huge amount of low cost, no cost things to do.
That's right.
Why go spend money on some huge entertainment for your kids when they can be surfing?
Yeah, or having a barbie at Bar Beach or whatever, which is the sort of thing we used to do as, you know, a family and kids. It's just brilliant. So there are things you don't need to spend money on, like you might in the city.
And you find that you actually are quite happy with that as well. It's quite freeing in that sense, that pressure to earn money,
It's a bit
to
like
be able to do everything that you and the kids want to do.
Clean out your wardrobe and you think, and then you don't miss things, and you think, why did I hold on to that for 10 years? You know, I mean, it's human nature to some extent, but it's amazing. It's not even so much that you don't do without things. It's just that you realise, well, I didn't really need that extra bit of clutter in my life. So it's quite free.
And if you look, and even though again we've talked with our Mayor Russell Fitzpatrick before about the challenge facing people moving here in terms of housing, it's not just the Bega Valley and Merimbula. It is Australia wide, so we're no different than that.
No.
But when our rentals, a 4-bedroom house will rent in Merimbula will rent for about $550. So the median rents are well below. A friend of mine in Sydney is just renting a 3-bedroom unit for $1,200 a week.
Well, my good friend in Melbourne's just moved into a house in East Kew, renting with his family and his kids, and $2,200 a week. So, that's significant dollars, isn't it?
And of course, this started with us talking about that the wages and salaries might be lower than the city, but so's the cost of living. So don't use that as a deterrent. Now,
don't.
We're talking about this sea change as if it's this new phenomenon, but how long ago did you do yours?
End of '97, so yeah, what's that? 25 years ago, more or less. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I was 99, so it's not new by any means. But maybe there's more people doing it now.
Well, I would say yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, you know, you probably knew the term when you came here that, you know, part of the district was called the newlyweds or the nearly deads.
Yeah, well, I know God's waiting room was
Well, that's the other one,
yeah.
yeah. So you might have even made that up yourself as part of your real estate jargon.
No, that's when I moved to Chura Beach. That's what Chura Beach was called.
But that isn't really the case now.
No.
And, you know, as I said earlier, when I joined Bega Cheese, there was about 80 staff, and now there's 650 or thereabouts. So there's great growth there. So, so they've created other opportunities, which has caused to flow on. But no, there's a lot of families, you know, in the district now, and whilst it was originally very much a retirement area, if you went back 30, 40 years ago, which is how I came here because my parents retired here. And it still has that attraction, but there's a lot more commerce and activity now.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about Bega Cheese, and I'm hoping that we're going to be talking to them later on today. Again, one of the major employers in town, and not just on the processing line. But
no.
You know, it's that Bega Cheese is a global company, and it's based in Bega. It's actually nice. We're getting to the point where we don't have that. People go, "Where are you from?"
Oh, that's right.
And I go Merimbula, and they go, "Oh, where's that?" And I go, "Have you heard of Bega Cheese?" "Oh, yes, we've heard of Bega Cheese." So it's got that brand.
It has.
But it has actually grown exponentially in the last 10 years as well. But you may not be aware of it, but one of the best success stories I've come across is a tech person, an IT person who moved to town, and he thought he was the only tech person in the region.
Yeah.
And he was working at home, you know, on his computer doing his thing, and he suddenly started realising there were a lot of other tech people in their lounge rooms, and this is going back 15 years probably, thinking they were alone. And what they've developed is an amazing network of tech people, from project management through to software development and everything in between, doing major contracts for government in Canberra, for example. And there's been they've built about 200 tech people who basically cooperate and coordinate together on different projects. And we now have a co-working space in both Bega and in Merimbula as well.
Yep.
So lots of opportunity for tech people to network and actually use your skills to create great things. So Matt Fleming, I don't think I can think of any other questions to ask you.
Well, that's fine, Joe. We'll leave it at that then. There's no point embellishing things if there's nothing to embellish.
Oh, well, you know, hold on. Journalism and real estate. No, that's not true. Not true at all. All right, lovely meeting you.
Yeah.
Matt Fleming
Likewise.
from Club Sapphire. I'll go and find my next victim. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.